Definitely watch this video if you are in either of these two situations. You are a buyer that have purchased a house and you've already had the home inspections done on the house. Or the second situation is you are selling your house and the buyers have just completed their home inspections. In this week's video, I'm going to talk to you about what are some reasonable expectations and reasonable things that buyers should ask for when they ask for repairs to be done to the house. So stick around. Hey everyone, my name is Danae Hewitt and I am your go-to DFW Realtor with Brico Realty Services. And my dog was just here. No, but he decided he wanted to go outside of my office. I thought he would make it through the whole video, but he didn't. Anyways, on my channel, I talk to you about all the things real estate, give you advice for things, explain things to you, and then I also go around to different cities here in the Metroplex, telling you what you can get for your money and telling you a little bit about each city. And I am very grateful because it is August in 2022 and the weather has been a little nicer this month than it was in June. We were talking over 100 degrees. So now that we're in the low 90s, which I should get my jacket, right? For the low 90s. I will be going back out to other cities and touring them for you because the weather is somewhat in my favor now. But let's get into this week's video. You are buying a house and have just had the home inspection, or you're selling your house and the buyers have just had their home inspection. So let's talk about what to anticipate next. When you have signed the contract, the buyers and sellers, they have agreed to how long their inspection period, or as we call it here in Texas, their option period is. And right now, I think 7 days is a great amount of time to negotiate, to have all the inspections done and to negotiate repairs that are done after finding out what has happened in that home inspection. I've seen option periods will be a lot shorter than 7 days, like 5 days. And when the market was like wild and crazy, 3-day option periods, those stressed me out. We need more time. We need more time than 3 days. But 7 days, I feel like, is a great amount of time because it allows the general home inspector to come into the house and they inspect everything in the house. And after you take that inspection, and if there's something deficient in that report, then you can have a more localized tradesman come in and look at the electrical of the house or look at the roof because of something that came up in that general inspection. The last day of the option period is noted in the contract at timing is of the essence. By 5 p.m. on the last day of that option period, we have to have negotiated repairs signed off on, or the buyer needs to terminate in writing by that time. So again, I feel like 7 days is a great amount of time to do everything that I just mentioned. When you are buying a house and selling a house and you're looking at that home inspection report, you just have to know that no house out there is perfect. There are going to be things that are noted on that inspection report. So just let that sink in. So when a buyer gets that report and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 30 pages long, hold up. There's going to be pictures associated with that. And a lot of times those reports have like the long form and then like the short form. The short form is just bullet points of here's all of the deficiencies or things that came up in the report. And then the long form is pictures and more of an explanation. And as a seller, again, no home is perfect. So I don't want you to get that report and go, oh my gosh, my house is a piece of, you know what? A lot of the times it's not. But home inspectors have to be really picky when they go through the house and they have to notate everything. These home inspectors are licensed through the state of Texas and they have parameters that they have to go through and that they have to provide in order to give the buyer of that house the most detailed information that they can when they are inspecting that home. Now, a home inspector is going to notify you when something is wrong, but not tell you why it is wrong. It's not their job to investigate the issue, because they can't go in and be digging around and all of that stuff, because if they do something even worse to the house, then of course they're liable to fix that. So that's when, if there is something, coming up with the electrical, just use that as an example, that's when you have the electrician come in and they can tell you what is wrong with it, why something is wrong, and the cost to fix it. With these home inspections, the home inspector is hired by the buyer. They work for the buyer, not the seller, not the buyer's agent. They work for the buyer. And really, at the home inspections, it should be the home inspector, the buyer, if they can make it, and the buyer's agent. So as a seller of the house, do what you can to try to not be in that house when that home is being inspected. And the buyers and the buyer's agents, they don't need to be there the entire time that the home inspector is there, because those inspections can be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the home. And if they're inspecting septic and termites and a pool, it can go on for a couple of hours. So what usually I do with my buyer clients is the last 30 minutes that the home inspector is at the house, we join them, we review the house together, and then we leave, and then we talk later, but we'll get to that in just a minute. After you've left the home with the home inspector and with your agent, then what you and your agent are going to do is that when you actually get their physical report in hand, you're going to go through it, and then you're going to talk about things that you want to have repaired, and all of these repairs will be done at the seller's expense, because that is how it is stated in the amendment of the contract. So when I say an amendment, let me explain that real quickly. You've signed the contract, the initial contract, that says that you are accepting the house as is. And most of the time, that's how you're going into the offer, is you're accepting the house as is because you haven't done a thorough inspection of the house. And an amendment is going to change that paragraph that states you're accepting the house as is. Now, you want to change it from we're accepting the house pending seller fixes at their expense, blah, 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 blah. Something like that. That wording is pretty close. It's pretty close. When you were looking through that report with your agent, there are definitely some major things that you do want to be on the lookout for, because they can be very costly to fix, and they can also affect the structural integrity of the home. And you just want to make sure that those things are rightfully taken care of before you are buying your house. On the flip side, if you are selling your home and your buyer of the house brings to you an amendment with something really major that is wrong with the house, I really do want you to think really, really strongly about how you are going to fix that issue. Now, we'll get to why a seller should do that a little bit down the line, but let's talk about what those major things are for both parties. Number one is the roof. The roof obviously keeps the weather out of your house and any of the water out of your house. So if there is any major damage to the roof, or if the roof is so old, and I've seen this happen, the roof is so old that the buyer is not going to be able to obtain homeowner's insurance for the house, then that roof would have to get replaced, because the buyer would essentially can't get homeowner's insurance in order to buy the house. I'm talking about for a seller right now. If that's one buyer's homeowner's insurance, you can probably guarantee another insurance adjuster is gonna come out, look at the house, and probably say the same thing. This roof is too old. We're not going to insure it because we're going to have to replace it in 3 months. Again, just kind of guesstimating time here. So if that's the case, then Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I think you're going to have to really look into using your homeowner's insurance policy and that deductible to replace the roof, because the buyer won't be able to do that. They don't have the homeowner's insurance. They don't have the deductible. They're paying cash to replace that roof, which is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So let's not put that on them. Use your deductible and get that roof replaced. The next thing, I've mentioned it here in this video, is electrical. If electrical is not to code and it can cause some serious damage, potential damage to the house, if something were to happen with that panel, then that is definitely something that I would recommend that a buyer ask a seller to fix at their expense. If there is any water damage to a house, and when you go through the house, you can look and see if there's, something on the ceiling, it looks like there has been a leak or something like that. And if it comes out in the home inspection that we know that there is a leak, or if there was a previous leak, then we definitely want to make sure that we have a plumber go back in there to make sure that there is no active leak in the house. If there is a leak that has gone unattended for a long period of time, the homeowner, the seller, they're absolutely going to notice that, because there's going to be moisture in the walls. It's going to be moisture in the flooring. So it's probably something that they would have taken care of, but cosmetically, maybe just that stain is still on the roof and the repair has been fixed, but go ahead and paint the ceiling so that your buyer doesn't worry about whatever that stain is up there. And the seller should really get on that right away, because water in a house is terrible. It's so costly to fix. You want to nip that in the bud right away. The next thing is anything wrong with your HVAC. The HVAC is a very expensive piece in your house. And so if there's anything wrong with it, or any minor things that are wrong with it that inhibit it from working to its full potential, then you need to ask for those things to get repaired. And that can be a licensed HVAC technician coming in, fixing it, and moving on. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is a full replacement that is needed for those systems. Now, on that note, if that unit is original to the home and it is nearing the end of its life, then there could be some justification to ask for seller concessions, and I'll link a video as to what seller concessions are. And the buyer can use that as money towards replacing this unit in the near future, because this unit is nearing its life expectancy. That's definitely something that you can try to negotiate. On the flip side, if you are selling your house and you know that unit is original, just want to put it out there that you may be getting that back in the home inspection, that something may not be right with it. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that it may be something that you have looked at before you list your house. Or maybe something you just want to keep in the back of your mind, that a buyer could ask me to give them money to replace it in the future. Next thing is foundations. Foundations here in Texas. I could do a whole video on it, but I am not, because it's not my forte. But of course, I know a lot about them because of my business. But if there is any significant movement in the house that does warrant foundation repairs to be done to it, so they're installing piers in the house that lift the house up where it is deficient, then that's definitely work that the buyer, in my opinion, should ask for to have the seller fix at their expense, or give them credit so that the buyer can fix it after closing. But a lot of times, if the home has shifted, then there's a reason for that. So what's the reason that the foundation shifted? Does the home not have gutters on it? Does the home not have sprinklers? Does the home have so many trees and so much foliage around the house that any watering that is done to the house is going towards the trees and the foliage and the grass, but it's not enough to get to watering the house? You don't know. Houses move for a reason. So a lot of times, if the home has shifted, you may not necessarily have to have piers installed on the house. You may just need to add a sprinkler system, or you may need to add gutters. But whoever you have come out to the house to look at that foundation, they can also tell you what things can you do in the future to prevent the home from moving anymore. The last thing is wood destroying insects, better known as termites. So I recommend every single buyer on a house to have a termite inspection done, even on new construction. It's like $75, $85 to have a termite inspection done, but the damage that termites can do to the inside of your house is thousands of dollars. So let's just pay $75 to have peace of mind to know that I don't have termites in my house. If in the inspection we find out that there is an active termite infestation in the house, 100% that needs to get taken care of at the seller's expense. 100% for sure. If you have something called conducive conditions, which are things that termites like a lot of foliage up around the house. Termites like a lot of rotten wood. Oh, they just love, even just talking about it, gives me the heebie-jeebies. So, but termites love those things. So if there are a lot of conducive conditions for termites, then actually that might be something that you may or may not negotiate, depending on how bad it is. If there's a ton of foliage around the house, honestly, it just needs to be cut, I think anywhere from 6 to 12 inches away from the house, and then boom, like no problem. Then that conducive condition is essentially gone. So you may or may not want to negotiate that, just depending on how the other things come out in the report. But if there is an active infestation, the seller needs to fix it 100%, because it's also affecting their current house while they're still in it for the next 30 days or so. Quick story time for you. About 2 years ago, had a listing, home inspection was done, termite inspection was done. I get a call from the buyer's agent telling me that there was an active termite infestation in the house. Clients had no idea because the termites hadn't gotten into the house yet. And where was it? They had huge bushes in the front of their house, huge. And you really needed to like go through the bushes to see it. It wasn't just boom, right there it is. And that's usually how it is. She had no idea. And so I didn't live far from the house, so I went down to the house immediately and went to see it. And I called termite people on my way down there, and we needed to get it taken care of right away before it got so bad that they went inside the house. Let me tell you, even just seeing the termites and their little mud tunnel, it was so gross. For her, it wasn't a fun thing to obviously have to go through as she was selling her house, but she was like, well, you know what? On the flip side, if I didn't sell my house, I wouldn't know about the termites until they had gotten into my house. So silver lining. The buyer didn't even need to ask for my client to fix that. Didn't even need to ask. She was like, oh, yes, no, I'm fixing it. So we had them eradicated. And then what we did is that with that, what my client paid for, it came with some treatments down the line every couple of months, something like that. So that was just transferred over to the buyer, and we did put that in writing. In my opinion, those are the 6 things that are very crucial, that if they come out deficient on that report, you want to look into it a bit more and possibly have the sellers fix at their expense. So what happens is, after you've reviewed the report and everything with your agent, then you're going to ask for things to get fixed. And again, focus on those 6 major things. If the electrical outlet is missing the plate, don't ask the seller to put a new one on there. Go to Home Depot, pay $3 and do it yourself. Okay, we really want to focus on major things that are wrong with the house. Any of those things that you want the seller to fix at their expense, your agent is going to put in the repair amendment. And what I recommend that agents do is they legitimately take the language from the inspection report, copy and paste it, so there is no gray area as to what needs to be done. And then also you attach that report in your final email, which I know we kind of go, oh, we don't want to send that report over to the sellers. Selling agents think of this, because anything on that report now has to be disclosed to future buyers if for some reason this transaction falls apart. But on one hand, as a buyer, you do want the seller to have written documentation and proof that there is something wrong with the house. You've got to have the proof to justify what it is that you're asking for. So again, we want this to be a win-win situation. We want the buyer to be comfortable with what they're asking, and then we want the seller to be comfortable with what they plan to do. Now the seller, when you guys receive that report, you can look at it, you can look at that home inspection report, and you can decide if you want to fix these things or if you don't want to fix these things, because you are not bound by anything that you have to do any repairs to the house. You can say no. And buyers, you have to realize that they can say no. So if they don't want to fix any of these things, or if they only want to fix 2 out of the 6 things that you asked for, then as a buyer, you're going to have to decide, okay, am I okay with them not fixing these other 4 things? So that's where the negotiations happen. So within that 7 days, the home inspection needs to be done. The repair amendment needs to be drafted, sent over to the sellers in a timely manner. Like, this should not happen on day 6. It has happened to me once on day 6 and I was not happy. But it should not happen towards the very end of the option period, because we want to allow the sellers enough time to respond back. Call who they need to call, find out how much this is going to be. We need to give them time. Maybe they're going to come back to you and counter with one of those repairs. So you want to do your best to give them your repair amendment within the first couple of days of that option period. We just want to have enough time. We don't want anyone negotiating repairs at the 11th hour, because it is very stressful. It is very stressful to have to do that. Did this video give you some good information as you guys enter repair negotiations? Well, if it did, let me know in the comments below. And then next week, guys, I will be back out and I will be touring a couple of cities to show you what you can get for your money here in DFW. If there's any city that you have in mind, leave that in the comments below and I will definitely hit that city up. And in the meantime, check out this video right over here and I will see you next week.